U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Chinese Foreign Minister Wang in Rome today. This was their second face-to-face session at a time when diplomatic relations between the two countries are at an all-time low. Back in March, the two diplomats had met in Alaska. Antony Blinken and Wang Yi are attending the G20 summit, where tensions are running high between the two sides over trade, human rights and the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier this week, Washington had ordered China Telecom Americas to discontinue its services within 60 days. This ended nearly 2 decades of operations in the country. Tensions are high when it comes to China's relations with Taiwan. China claims the island nation as its own territory. Taiwan is an ally of the United States. Earlier this month, Washington confirmed that a small number of U.S. troops are on the island to help train Taiwan's troops. On Tuesday, Blinken called for Taiwan to be allowed greater involvement in UN agencies. Recently, U.S. President Joe Biden had said that the U.S. was ready to defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. The White House quickly walked back on the claims following China's warnings. It now continues a strategy of ambiguity on whether it would use military if China attacks Taiwan. Well, White House Bureau Chief Patsy, thank you very much for staying with us. Let's talk more about this. When asked if the U.S. would defend Taiwan if China invades, President Joe Biden recently responded and said yes, but also said it is complicated. Why is it complicated? And will we ever see an end to this soaring relationship between the U.S. and China?
Well, I think it's complicated because it's intentionally complicated in the sense that it is intentionally ambiguous. As you mentioned, when President Joe Biden was asked whether he would defend Taiwan on the instance of the Chinese attack, he said yes, because we have a commitment to do so. But immediately after that, the next day, White House press secretary was pressed by journalists in explaining the president's statement. And she said that our policy towards Taiwan is guided by the Taiwan's Relations Act, which essentially says that the U.S. has the obligation to provide arms, to provide military hardware to Taiwan for its own purposes of self-defense. But it does not say that the U.S. will come to Taiwan's rescue under a Chinese attack. And so it's ambiguous, yes, but it's intentionally ambiguous because that is a foreign policy doctrine when it comes to Taiwan. Obviously, the U.S. Commits to the one China policy, but on the issue of Taiwan, it remains strategically ambiguous. And that is certainly something that will be discussed in this meeting that's going on. We haven't had a readout yet between the meeting between Secretary Blinken and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. We'll see whether or not the two sides can achieve some sort of at least detente, because I think both have continued to say that we need to manage this relationship. The last thing that the world needs is some kind of miscalculation or military escalation because of this great power rivalry in the region, not just over the issue of Taiwan, but many other issues, in the South China Sea, as well as trade. Everybody, including the U.S. as well as India, has the interest to guarantee freedom of navigation. And this is, of course, something that was brought up under the recent AUKUS deal with Australia as well, and was also discussed between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi during the recent Quad summit between India, Japan, and as well as Washington, D.C. So this is an issue of regional concern, how to manage the U.S.-China rivalry, how to make sure that it doesn't come to blows, and we'll see what comes out of the meeting today.